17 seconds. That's how long it took for him to destroy a man's entire career, and I didn't even know his name yet. The faculty meeting had been brutal. Professor Harrington, head of the English department, had made it his personal mission to humiliate me in front of everyone. "Miss Chen, your teaching methodology is, quite frankly, embarrassing. Perhaps if you spent less time coddling students and more time understanding academic rigor, you'd be worthy of this position." My hands had trembled on the table. 20 pairs of eyes watched me crumble. I'd wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor. I'd excused myself, barely holding back tears, not knowing that someone had been watching from the doorway where a handful of students had gathered, curious about the shouting. 3 days later, Harrington was gone. Not transferred. Not reprimanded. Gone. The university released a vague statement about financial irregularities and inappropriate conduct. His office was cleared out overnight. His name was scrubbed from the department website. It was like he'd never existed. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt unsettled. The speed of it. The completeness of it. Something about it felt wrong, too precise, too thorough. I didn't connect it to him until much later. How could I? He was just the quiet man in the back row of my contemporary literature class. Older than the other students, late 30s, maybe, with silver threading through his dark hair and eyes that seemed to notice everything while revealing nothing. He'd enrolled mid-semester, which was unusual. Sat in the back corner, always arrived exactly 2 minutes before class started, always left without lingering. He never raised his hand, never participated in discussions unless I called on him directly, and when he did speak, his answers were thoughtful, measured, like he'd been reading literature his entire life but had just forgotten to mention it. "Mr. Zhang," I'd said during our second week, trying to draw him into a conversation about Fitzgerald. "What's your interpretation of Gatsby's green light?" He'd looked up from his notebook, those dark eyes meeting mine for just a moment. "Desire disguised as hope. The difference is important." The class had gone quiet. Even the usually talkative students had stopped scrolling on their phones. "Explain," I'd said softly. "Hope is about possibility. Desire is about possession. Gatsby didn't want possibility, he wanted to own the past. That's not hope. That's obsession." His voice was low, controlled, like he'd thought about this before, lived it somehow. I'd nodded, feeling something shift in the room. That's exactly right." He'd looked back down at his notebook, and that was it. But I'd felt his words linger long after class ended. Why was I thinking about him so much? The university campus was beautiful in autumn. Red and gold leaves scattered across the pathways, students rushed between buildings with coffee cups and laptops, and I tried to convince myself I was happy here. This was what I'd worked for, a lecturer position at a prestigious university, a chance to shape young minds, stability after years of unstable adjunct work. But most days, I felt like I was pretending. Pretending I belonged. Pretending I knew what I was doing. Pretending I wasn't lonely in a city where I knew almost no one. My apartment was small, my social life was non-existent, and my family back home kept asking when I'd get married. I was 28, single, and apparently running out of time according to my mother's increasingly pointed phone calls. "You're a lecturer now," she'd said last week. "Surely there are eligible men at the university?" I'd laughed. "Mom, I'm too busy for that." Liar. I wasn't too busy. I was too scared. Too careful. Too convinced that I wasn't interesting enough for anyone to notice. Then came the day everything shifted. It was a Thursday afternoon, and I'd stayed late to prepare for the next week's lectures. The building was mostly empty, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional sound of doors closing down the hall. I was in my tiny office, barely more than a closet with a desk and a bookshelf, when someone knocked. "Come in," I called, expecting a student. The door opened. It was him. Mr. Zhang stood in the doorway, and for the first time, I really looked at him. Tall, lean build, expensive watch on his wrist, a dark coat that probably cost more than my monthly rent. There was something about the way he carried himself, not arrogant, but certain, like he was used to rooms falling silent when he entered them. "I'm sorry to disturb you," he said. His voice was quieter than it was in class, more intimate in the small space. "I wanted to ask about the paper assignment." "Of course." I gestured to the chair across from my desk, trying to ignore the way my pulse had quickened. "Please, sit." He closed the door behind him, politely, not threateningly, and sat down. The chair seemed too small for him, or maybe he just seemed too present, too real in my cramped office. "The assignment asks us to analyze a contemporary work through the lens of class and power," he said. "I want to make sure I understand what you're looking for." I explained the requirements, watching as he nodded, occasionally jotting notes in a leather-bound notebook that looked more expensive than anything I owned. He asked intelligent questions, the kind that showed he'd actually read the material and thought deeply about it. "You're not a typical student," I said without thinking. Then immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry, that came out wrong." "No offense taken." A small smile touched his lips, the first real emotion I'd seen from him. "I'm here for reasons that have nothing to do with career advancement." "What reasons?" He was quiet for a moment, considering. "Unfinished business. A promise I made to someone a long time ago." He stood, sliding his notebook into his coat pocket. "Thank you for your time, Miss Chen." "It's just Chen Wei," I said. "Or Wei, if you prefer." "Miss Chen makes me feel like I'm teaching high school." "Wei." He said my name like he was testing how it felt. "Thank you, Wei." After he left, I sat at my desk for a long time, staring at the closed door, wondering why my office suddenly felt too quiet, too empty. Why him, of all people? The next few weeks passed in a strange rhythm. He attended every class, always on time, always attentive. But now, sometimes our eyes would meet across the room, and something unspoken would pass between us. Recognition? Understanding? I couldn't name it, but I felt it. I started noticing small things. The way he held his pen. The way he listened when other students spoke, not politely, but genuinely, like their words mattered. The way he never interrupted, never dominated discussions, but when he did speak, everyone listened. And I noticed the way other students seemed subtly wary of him. Not afraid, exactly, but respectful in a way that went beyond age difference. Like they sensed something beneath his quiet exterior. I wasn't the only one who'd noticed him. During a department coffee break, another lecturer named Sarah leaned in conspiratorially. "Who's the silver fox in your contemporary lit class?" "Silver fox?" I'd laughed, cheeks warming. "He's just a mature student." "Just?" Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Honey, men like that don't just randomly show up in undergraduate literature classes. There's a story there." There was. I was sure of it. But I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't figure out why I wanted to know so badly. The night everything changed started innocently enough. I was walking to my car after evening office hours, the campus mostly dark except for scattered lampposts creating pools of golden light. November had brought cold winds that cut through my coat, and I was rushing, head down, when I heard voices ahead. 2 men. Blocking the path to the parking lot. My heart kicked hard against my ribs. It was late. The campus was nearly empty. I reached for my phone, trying to decide whether to turn back or try to walk past them quickly. "Miss Chen." One of them stepped forward into the light. I didn't recognize him. "We need to talk to you about Professor Harrington." Everything in me went cold. "I don't know anything about." "You got him fired," the other one said. "He was bigger, angrier. You ruined his life." I didn't, my voice came out small, scared. I didn't do anything. I don't know what happened to him. He lost everything because of you. His career. His reputation. The first man moved closer. Someone needs to pay for that. I stepped backward, phone clutched in my shaking hand, trying to think. Run? Scream? Call security? But we were so far from any buildings, and they were between me and my car. Leave her alone. The voice came from behind me, calm and cold as winter water. I spun around. Mr. Zhang stood 10 feet away, hands in his coat pockets, looking at the two men like they were insects he was considering crushing. This doesn't concern you, old man, one of them said, but his voice had lost some of its aggression. I'm making it concern me. Mr. Zhang walked forward, positioning himself between me and them. You have 3 seconds to leave. Or what? Or I make a phone call, and you don't make it home tonight. Something in his voice had changed. It wasn't loud, wasn't aggressive, but it carried absolute certainty. This wasn't a threat. It was a fact. The two men looked at each other. Whatever they saw in Mr. Zhang's face made them reconsider. They backed away, muttering curses, disappearing into the darkness. I stood frozen, heart hammering, unable to process what had just happened. Mr. Zhang turned to me, and his expression softened immediately. Are you hurt? He asked gently. I shook my head, not trusting my voice. Come on. I'll walk you to your car. We walked in silence, my legs shaking, his presence solid and steady beside me. When we reached my car, I finally found my voice. Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't. Nothing would have happened, he said firmly. I wouldn't have let it. I looked up at him, really looked at him, and something clicked into place. The expensive clothes. The quiet authority. The way those men had backed down immediately. The way Professor Harrington had vanished overnight. Who are you? I whispered. He studied my face for a long moment, like he was deciding something. Someone who should have stayed away from you. But you didn't. No. His voice was soft, almost regretful. I didn't. Why? Because the moment I saw you standing in front of that class, talking about literature like it mattered more than anything in the world, I knew I was in trouble. He stepped closer, and I could smell his cologne, cedar and something darker. And when I saw that man humiliate you, I stopped pretending I could stay away. My breath caught. You're the reason Harrington disappeared. It wasn't a question. He didn't confirm or deny it, just held my gaze. You need to understand something, Wei. My name on his lips sent warmth through my chest. I'm not a good man. I've done things that would terrify you. I came back here to finish something I started 20 years ago, to honor a promise to someone who's gone now. I never meant to, he stopped himself, jaw tight. I never meant to notice you. But you did. But I did. We stood in the cold parking lot, his words hanging between us like a confession. I should have been afraid. He'd essentially admitted to destroying a man's career, maybe his life. He'd just threatened 2 people with casual certainty. Everything logical in me said to get in my car and drive away. But I didn't feel afraid. I felt seen. Seen in a way I'd never been before. I should go, I said, even though I didn't want to. You should. He stepped back, giving me space. Drive safely, Wei. I got in my car, hands still trembling, and watched him walk away into the darkness. Only then did I realize he'd never told me his first name. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction we'd had. The way he'd looked at me. The way he'd defended me. The danger in his voice when he'd threatened those men. Who was he really? And why did knowing he was dangerous make me want to know him even more? I started researching him the next day. It felt intrusive, maybe wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. The university records only listed him as Zhang Chen, late enrollment, no previous academic history. I searched online, found nothing. It was like he didn't exist outside these walls. But someone that controlled, that powerful, he existed somewhere. He had a life, a history, secrets he'd only hinted at. The next class was unbearable. He sat in his usual spot, and I could barely focus on my lecture. Every time our eyes met, I felt electricity shoot through me. Did he feel it too? Or was I imagining this entire connection? After class, he lingered as other students filed out. My heart raced. "Wei," he said quietly. "Can we talk?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. When the room was empty, he approached my desk. Up close, I could see faint scars on his hands, the kind that came from a life harder than university lectures. "I owe you honesty," he said. "After last night, you deserve to know who I am." "Okay. My name is Zhang Chen, and 20 years ago, I was supposed to graduate from this university. I was young, arrogant, planning to take over my father's business empire. Then my father was killed. Murdered by his rivals in a world I didn't understand yet but had to inherit overnight." His voice was steady, factual. "I left school to take his place. To survive. To build what he'd started into something stronger." "What kind of business?" I asked, even though I already knew. "The kind that exists in the shadows. The kind your parents warn you about." He held my gaze. "I'm not just wealthy, Wei. I control things. People. Industries. I have power that most people don't even know exists. The Mafia." He was telling me he was part of the Mafia without saying the words. I should have run. Should have reported him, distanced myself, protected my career and my safety. "Why come back here?" I asked instead. "My father made me promise. Before he died, he said education was the only thing that couldn't be taken from you. That I should finish what I started, no matter how long it took. I ignored that promise for 20 years while I built an empire, crushed my enemies, and became someone he wouldn't recognize." His expression softened. "But I got tired, Wei. Tired of blood and money and power plays. I wanted to remember who I was before all of it. So I came back to keep my promise. And then you met me. And then I met you." He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers were warm against my skin. "A woman who teaches literature like it's salvation. Who believes in words and meaning and the power of stories to change lives. You're everything my world isn't. Is that why you destroyed Harrington?" "I destroyed Harrington because he hurt you. Because I watched you shake and try not to cry, and something in me snapped." His voice hardened. "Men like him think they can crush people without consequences. I taught him differently. You didn't have to do that for me." "I know. That's the problem." He stepped back, putting distance between us. "I shouldn't be near you, Wei. I'm dangerous. My life is dangerous. Just being associated with me puts a target on your back, as you saw last night. Those men were sent by people who want to hurt me through anyone I care about. And now they know I care about you." Frustration flashed across his face. "I should never have interfered. Should have let you handle it yourself. But I couldn't. The thought of them touching you," he stopped, jaw clenched. The room felt too small, too charged. I could barely breathe. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. His eyes met mine, dark and intense and full of something I was afraid to name. "Everything. Nothing. I want to sit in your class and listen to you talk about books. I want to walk you to your car every night to make sure you're safe. I want to know your favorite color and what makes you laugh and why you became a teacher. He moved closer again, helpless, drawn like he couldn't stop himself. But wanting those things puts you in danger. So I'm going to stay away. After tonight, I'll drop your class. I'll finish my degree quietly and leave you alone. What if I don't want you to? The words came out before I could stop them. His eyes widened slightly, the first time I'd seen him genuinely surprised. Way. I'm not some delicate flower who needs protection from reality, I said, finding my courage. I'm an adult. I can make my own choices about who I spend time with. You don't understand what you're saying. Then explain it to me. Help me understand. I stepped closer, closing the distance between us. Because right now, all I know is that I think about you constantly. That I feel safer with you than I've felt with anyone. That when you say my name, something in me responds that I don't fully understand yet. Way. My name was a warning, a plea. I'm not asking for promises or commitment or anything beyond honesty, I continued. I'm just asking you not to disappear. Not to decide for me what I can handle. He stared at me for a long moment, something like agony crossing his face. Then, so softly I almost didn't hear it, you're going to ruin me. Good, I whispered. He reached out, cupped my face with one hand, thumb brushing my cheekbone. The touch was gentle, reverent, like I was something precious. My whole life, I've been in control. I've made calculated decisions, eliminated threats, built an empire on strategy and ruthlessness. But you, his voice roughened. You make me want to be reckless. Then be reckless. I can't. Not with you. You're too important. But he didn't pull away. Neither did I. We stood there, suspended in the moment, the air between us electric with possibility and danger and something neither of us could name but both of us felt. Finally, he dropped his hand and stepped back. I won't drop your class. But we need rules. Boundaries. Okay. No meeting alone in private places. No personal conversations during class. If anyone asks, I'm just a student and you're just my teacher. That's it? Those are your boundaries? A small, sad smile. Those are the boundaries I know I'll break. I'm trying to at least pretend I have control here. I smiled despite myself. Okay. We'll pretend. He left then, and I sank into my chair, heart pounding, wondering what I'd just agreed to. Wondering if I'd just made the best or worst decision of my life. Probably both. The next few weeks were torture in the most exquisite way. He attended every class, and we maintained the facade of teacher and student. But underneath, there was a current between us that anyone paying attention could have felt. We broke his rules almost immediately. He started walking me to my car after every evening class, claiming it was safer. We'd talk about literature, philosophy, life, anything but what we were actually doing, which was learning each other. I learned that his favorite color was the deep blue of twilight. That he'd been reading constantly since childhood, using books as an escape from the violence around him. That he played piano but hadn't touched one in years. That he'd been married once, briefly, to a woman his father had chosen, and that she'd died in a car accident 3 years into their marriage. Did you love her? I'd asked one night, the question slipping out before I could stop it. I cared for her. Respected her. She deserved better than what I could give. His voice was quiet. Love wasn't part of our agreement. Neither of us expected it. Do you think love is possible for someone like you? He'd looked at me then, something raw in his expression. I didn't. But I'm starting to wonder. Those conversations became the highlight of my days. I found myself staying late just to have those 10 minutes walking to my car with him, talking about everything and nothing, the cold November air biting at my cheeks while his presence kept me warm. My colleague Sarah noticed, of course. "You're glowing," she said one afternoon. "Who is he?" "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do. You have that look. The I'm falling for someone I shouldn't be falling for look." She grinned. "Let me guess. The silver fox in your class?" "Sarah." "I knew it." "Oh honey, be careful." I did some asking around. Nobody knows anything about him, and that's suspicious. Men with that much presence and mystery? They have secrets. "I know," I said quietly. "And you're falling for him anyway?" I couldn't answer. Couldn't admit out loud what I barely wanted to admit to myself. That yes, I was falling. That every conversation, every lingering look, every moment of his quiet attention was pulling me under. That I thought about him first thing in the morning and last thing at night. That I was terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. "Just be careful," Sarah said, softer now. "I don't want to see you hurt." But careful was becoming impossible. The shift came during a late December snowfall. Campus was nearly deserted, finals week over, most students gone home for the holidays. I'd stayed to catch up on grading, and when I finally left the building, snow was falling thick and soft, transforming the campus into something magical. My car wouldn't start. I tried 3 times, the engine turning over weakly before dying. Frustrated, I pulled up my phone to call a tow service. "Car trouble?" I looked up. Chin stood a few feet away, snow dusting his dark coat, hands in his pockets. He'd stopped calling himself Mr. Zhang in our private conversations, had started using his first name, and I'd stopped pretending it didn't thrill me when he did. "It won't start," I said. "I think the battery's dead." "Come on. I'll drive you home." "You don't have to." "Wei." He said my name like a gentle command. "Let me drive you home." His car was a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than I made in a year. The inside was warm, leather seats soft, classical music playing quietly. He drove carefully through the snow, and I gave him directions to my apartment building. "You live alone?" he asked. "Yes. It's small, but it's enough." "Safe neighborhood?" "Safe enough." "Why?" "Just making sure." His hands were steady on the wheel. "You matter to me, Wei. Your safety matters." Those simple words shouldn't have affected me so deeply, but they did. When was the last time anyone had cared about my safety? My happiness? When had anyone looked at me the way he did, like I was worth protecting, worth cherishing? When we reached my building, he parked but didn't immediately let me out. We sat in the warm car, snow falling outside, the world quiet and white. "Wei," he said softly. "We need to talk about what's happening here." My heart kicked against my ribs. "What is happening here?" "You know what? I know you feel it too." He turned to face me fully. I told myself I could keep this professional. That I could be near you and not want more. I was lying to myself. "Chin. Every day I watch you teach and I think about what it would be like to kiss you. Every night I go home and imagine what it would be like to know you completely. I'm 40 years old, Wei. I've lived a hard life. I've done terrible things. But nothing has undone me the way you do just by existing." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Could only feel the truth of his words echoing in my own chest. "I'm falling in love with you," he said simply. "And I shouldn't be. You're my teacher. I'm technically your student. I'm dangerous. I'm too old for you. I'm damaged in ways you can't imagine. Every logical reason says I should walk away. But," I whispered, But I can't. I've tried. God knows I've tried. But every time I see you, I think maybe I could have this one beautiful thing in my dark life. Maybe I could be the man who gets to love you. Tears pricked my eyes. Nobody had ever spoken to me like this. Like I was something precious. Like loving me was a privilege. What if I'm falling too? I said, voice shaking. His expression cracked, something vulnerable and hopeful breaking through his controlled exterior. Are you? Yes. I know I shouldn't. I know this is complicated and dangerous and probably a terrible idea. But I think about you constantly. I feel something with you I've never felt with anyone else. You make me feel seen, Chin. Really seen. Way. He reached out, taking my hand. His palm was warm, scarred, strong. If we really do this, you need to understand my world. There will be dangers. There will be secrets I can't tell you to keep you safe. There will be nights I can't explain where I've been or what I've done. I'm not asking for your whole world. I'm just asking for what you can give. What I can give is everything I am. All of me. The good, the broken, the blood-stained parts one wish I could erase. His thumb traced circles on my palm. I can give you honesty, loyalty, protection. I can give you every moment I'm not handling things I wish didn't exist. I can give you my heart, which I thought was too damaged to give anyone. That's enough, I whispered. That's more than enough. He pulled me closer, across the center console, until our faces were inches apart. His free hand cupped my cheek, and I could feel him trembling slightly. Are you sure? He asked. Kiss me and find out. He did. His lips were soft, tentative at first, like he was afraid I'd break. But when I kissed him back, when I threaded my fingers through his hair and pulled him closer, something unleashed in both of us. The kiss deepened, turned hungry, desperate, like we were both drowning and had finally found air. I'd been kissed before, but never like this. Never like I was oxygen and water and everything necessary for survival. His hand fisted in my hair, angling my head, and I made a sound I didn't recognize as mine. He groaned against my mouth, and it was the most erotic sound I'd ever heard. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to mine. I'm ruined, he whispered. Completely ruined for anyone else. Good, I said again, making him smile. He drove me to my apartment door, kissed me again in the hallway, slower this time, sweeter, and made me promise to text him when I was safely inside. I floated into my apartment, closed the door, and sank against it, fingers touching my lips, wondering how my entire life had just changed in the space of one kiss. I texted him, I'm safe. Thank you for tonight. His response came immediately, thank you for taking a chance on a broken man. Sleep well, Wei. I didn't sleep well. I barely slept at all. I lay in bed replaying every moment, every word, every touch, feeling alive in a way I'd never experienced before. What had I just started? Where would this lead? I didn't know. Didn't care. For once in my careful, planned-out life, I was doing something reckless, something that felt like destiny and disaster in equal measure. And I couldn't wait to see where it went. The semester ended, which meant Chin was no longer technically my student. The boundary that had been a thin, fraught line between us dissolved, and suddenly we could stop pretending. Our first real date was dinner at an elegant restaurant I never could have afforded. He picked me up wearing a dark suit that made my mouth go dry, and when he saw me in the simple black dress I'd agonized over for an hour, his eyes darkened in a way that made my skin warm. You're beautiful, he said simply, like it was fact. Nobody had ever made me feel beautiful before. Pretty, maybe. Cute. But beautiful? That was new. That was intoxicating. Dinner was perfect. We talked for hours, about everything and nothing. He told me about his father's death, the weight of inheriting an empire he hadn't wanted, the years of violence and strategy that had shaped him into who he was now. Do you regret it? I asked. Parts of it. The violence, yes. The things I had to do to survive, to protect what was mine, I regret that I had no choice. But the strength it gave me, the ability to protect people I care about? That I don't regret. Like you protected me. Like I'll always protect you, he corrected. If you let me. Soon, I thought. Soon. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen moments and growing intimacy. He took me to art museums and explained paintings with the eye of someone who'd studied them deeply. He cooked for me in his penthouse apartment, a space so elegant and expensive it should have been intimidating, but felt warm when he was in it. He read to me, his voice like dark honey, making even grocery lists sound like poetry. And I opened up to him in ways I'd never opened up to anyone. Told him about my family, my fears of not being good enough, my loneliness in the city. He listened like every word mattered, like understanding me was the most important task in the world. You're more than good enough, he said one night as we sat on his couch, my feet in his lap, his hands absently massaging them. You're extraordinary. Do you know how rare it is to find someone who genuinely cares about making the world better through teaching? Who sees literature not as dead words on a page but as living, breathing truth? You see it that way too. Because you taught me to. Because watching you teach reminded me why I loved reading in the first place. You gave that back to me, Wei. These conversations, these quiet moments, were as intimate as anything physical could be. I was learning him, and he was learning me, and every discovery felt like unwrapping a gift. But we both knew we couldn't stay in this suspended, perfect bubble forever. Reality would intrude eventually. It happened on a cold January night. I was staying at Chen's apartment, something that had become more common, though we still hadn't slept together. We'd come close several times, but he always pulled back. Not until you're sure, he'd say. Not until you understand fully what being with me means. I was sure. But I also understood he needed to be sure I was sure. That he was protecting me even from himself. That night, I woke up alone in his bed. The space beside me was empty, the sheets cold. I checked the time, 3 a.m. Where was he? I found him in his office, sitting at his desk with his head in his hands. Papers were spread across the surface, and his phone was face down beside him. He looked exhausted, defeated. Chen? I said softly from the doorway. He looked up, and the anguish in his eyes made my chest ache. You should be asleep. So should you. What's wrong? Nothing I can't handle. That's not an answer. He stared at me for a long moment, then sighed. Come here. I crossed to him, and he pulled me into his lap, burying his face in my neck. I held him, this strong, powerful man who'd just become suddenly vulnerable in my arms. Talk to me, I whispered. There's someone from my past. Someone I thought was dead but apparently isn't. He's surfaced, and he's making threats. Against my businesses, my people, he stopped. Against me? I won't let him touch you. I'll die before I let anyone hurt you. Chen, you're scaring me. He pulled back, cupping my face. I'm sorry. I'm handling it. But I need you to understand, my world is always like this. There's always someone wanting to challenge me, hurt me, take what's mine. Violence isn't some distant possibility. It's always there, waiting. I know that. I knew that when I agreed to this. Knowing and living with are different things. Then let me live with it. Let me be part of your life, all of it, not just the beautiful parts you curate for me. He searched my face, looking for doubt, for fear. You're sure? I'm sure. He kissed me then, deep and desperate, like I was his anchor in a storm. And maybe I was. Maybe we were anchors for each other, him pulling me into passion I'd never known, me pulling him into softness he'd long forgotten. Stay with me, he whispered against my lips. Not just tonight. Always. I'm not going anywhere. That night, we didn't sleep. We talked until dawn, about his businesses, legitimate and not, about the threats he faced, about the delicate balance he maintained between power and peace. He showed me the parts of his life he'd hidden, and I didn't flinch. Didn't judge. Just listened, learned, understood. By morning, we'd crossed another invisible line. I knew who he really was now, the full scope of it, and I stayed. That meant something. To both of us. The next few weeks tested us in ways I hadn't anticipated. Chin became busier, more distracted, dealing with the threat he'd mentioned. There were nights he didn't come home, mornings he arrived looking exhausted and grim. He tried to shield me from the details, but I could see the weight on him. Let me help, I said one night. You can't help with this, Wei. This isn't your world. But you're my world now. So it is my world. He pulled me close, kissed my forehead. You help by existing. By being here when I come home. By reminding me there's something good worth protecting. It should have felt like enough. But I hated feeling helpless, hated watching him carry burdens alone. Then came the night everything exploded. I was at my apartment, grading papers, when someone knocked on my door. It was late, nearly midnight. Chin was supposed to be in a meeting across town. I checked the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway, elegant, beautiful, with sharp eyes that seemed to see through the door. Can I help you? I called through the door. You must be Wei, she said. Her voice was cultured, cold. We should talk. It's about Chin. Every instinct screamed danger. But I opened the door with the chain still on. Who are you? Someone who knew Chin long before you did. Someone who knows what he really is. She smiled, and it was like looking at a snake. He hasn't told you everything, has he? About what he's done. Who he's killed. The empire he built on blood and bones. I know enough. Do you know about the people he's destroyed? The families he's torn apart? The trail of bodies he's left behind? She leaned closer. Do you know he's using you, sweetheart? That you're just another possession to him, another thing to own and control? You're wrong. Am I? Ask him about his wife. His first wife. The one who died so conveniently when she wanted to leave him. My blood went cold. Get out. Truth hurts, doesn't it? You think you're special, but you're just the latest in a long line of women who thought they could change him, save him. But men like Chin don't change. They destroy everything they touch. I slammed the door, heart racing, hands shaking. It wasn't true. It couldn't be true. Chin had told me his wife died in an accident. That he'd cared for her but hadn't loved her. That it had been a tragedy, not. My phone rang. Chin. Wei, are you okay? He sounded urgent, worried. Someone was just here. A woman. She said, my voice broke. I'm coming. Don't open the door for anyone. I'll be there in 10 minutes. He made it in 7. When I opened the door, he swept me into his arms immediately, checking me over like I might be injured. Did she hurt you? No. She said things. About you. About your wife. His face went hard. What did she say? I told him. He listened, jaw clenched, fury building in his eyes. Her name is May, he said finally. She is my rival's sister. The man threatening me now? She's working with him. Everything she said was designed to hurt you, to drive a wedge between us. But your wife died in a car accident orchestrated by my enemies. I've spent the last 15 years hunting down everyone responsible. May knows that. She's trying to make you doubt me. Did you love your wife? No. But I honored her. Respected her. Protected her. And when I couldn't protect her, when they killed her to hurt me, I made sure every person responsible paid. His hands cupped my face. I would never hurt someone I claimed to protect. Never. But I understand if you need time to. I don't need time, I interrupted. I believe you. Way. Someone trying to manipulate me into leaving you just proves how much they fear what we have. I'm not going anywhere, Chin. I'm not that easy to scare off. Relief flooded his face. He kissed me hard, desperately, like I'd just saved him from drowning. And maybe I had. That night, he didn't leave. He stayed, holding me, and for the first time, there was no hesitation, no pulling back. We made love slowly, tenderly, learning each other's bodies with the same careful attention we'd learned each other's hearts. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, I felt safer than I'd ever felt. Connected in a way that went beyond physical. This was trust. This was choosing each other despite danger, despite fear, despite every logical reason to run. I love you, he whispered into my hair. I love you too, I whispered back. And I meant it. Completely. Irrevocably. The threats escalated after that night. Chin increased security around me, discreetly, but I noticed. Cars following me to and from campus. Men in dark suits stationed near my apartment. He hated it, hated that loving me put me in danger, but I refused to let fear control us. We could leave, he said one night. Disappear. I have resources, money, places we could go where no one would find us. And you'd be running for the first time in your life. For you, I'd run. I don't want you to run. I want you to fight. To finish this. And I want to be by your side when you do. He looked at me like I was something miraculous. How did I find you? I think I found you, I corrected. That first day in class, when you looked up at me and I felt everything shift. That was me finding you. Then I'm the luckiest man alive. The confrontation came 2 weeks later. Chin had tracked his enemy to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. He didn't want me anywhere near it, but I insisted on being at his apartment, waiting. He'd assigned his most trusted people to guard me. I paced his living room for hours, watching my phone, waiting for word. Every minute felt like an eternity. Finally, at 2 a.m., the door opened. Chin walked in, clothes disheveled, a cut above his eyebrow, exhaustion written across his face. But alive. He was alive. I ran to him, and he caught me, lifting me off my feet, burying his face in my neck. It's over, he said. It's finally over. You're hurt. Just a scratch. Way, it's over. He's gone. His sister too. Everyone who threatened us, handled. I should have asked what handled meant. Should have cared about the details. But all I cared about was that he was safe, that we were safe, that we could finally breathe. That night, I cleaned his cat while he sat on the bathroom counter, watching me with soft eyes. You're good at this, he said. I'm really not. I'm shaking. You're perfect. He caught my hand, kissed my palm. Wei, I need to ask you something. My heart kicked. Okay. Move in with me. Officially. Bring your books, your clutter, your terrible taste in reality TV. Make this place a home instead of just a house. Chin. I know it's fast. I know we've only been together a few months. But I've lived enough life to know when something's right. You're right. This is right. I don't want to spend another night without you here. Tears pricked my eyes. Yes. Yes, I'll move in with you. His smile was radiant, transforming his usually serious face into something boyish and joyful. He pulled me between his legs, kissed me deeply, and I could taste his relief, his happiness, his love. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making you happy, he promised. You already do, I whispered. Over the next few months, I settled into a life I never could have imagined. I kept teaching. It was important to me, to him, that I maintain my independence and my passion. But I came home to Chin every night, to our life together. He finished his degree that spring, graduating at 40 with honors. I sat in the audience and cried watching him walk across that stage, fulfilling the promise he'd made to his father 20 years ago. Thank you, he said afterward, diploma in hand, eyes on me. For giving me a reason to keep that promise. We traveled that summer. Paris, where he showed me museums and tiny bookshops and kissed me under the Eiffel Tower like we were teenagers. Tokyo, where we got lost in neon streets and ate incredible food. Rome, where we stood in ancient ruins and talked about empires and legacy and what we wanted our lives to mean. I want to build something good, he said one night in our Roman hotel room. I've spent so long building power, but what's the point of power if you don't use it for something meaningful? What do you want to build? A foundation, maybe. For education. For kids who don't have opportunities. For people like my father, who believed in the power of knowledge. He pulled me close. I want to create the kind of legacy that would make him proud. That would make you proud. I'm already proud of you. Even knowing everything I've done? Everything I am? Especially knowing that. Because you're choosing to be better. To do better. That takes more strength than maintaining power through fear. He kissed me then, soft and sweet, and I tasted gratitude and love and hope. When we returned home, he started working on his foundation. I helped where I could, but mostly I watched him transform from a man who controlled through fear to one who led through inspiration. He was still powerful, still commanded respect, but now it came from vision and purpose rather than violence. Our first year together taught me that love isn't about perfection. It's about choice. Choosing each other every day, despite flaws, despite pasts, despite the weight of complicated histories. Chin chose me when he could have chosen safety, chosen distance. I chose him when I could have chosen ease, chosen convention. And we kept choosing each other every single day. The university offered me a promotion, associate professor, with a significant raise and more responsibility. I almost turned it down, worried it would complicate things, draw unwanted attention. Take it, Chin said firmly. You've earned it. You're brilliant at what you do. People will talk. About us. About the age difference, the circumstances we met. Let them talk. I'm 41 and you're 29. We're both adults. We met in a literature class where I learned to love words again because of your teaching. That's a beautiful story, Wei. Don't let fear make you small. I took the promotion. People did talk, but less than I'd feared. And Chin was right, we were adults, building a life together, and that was enough. On our 2-year anniversary, he took me back to the campus where we'd met. It was late autumn again, leaves falling like they had that first day I'd really noticed him. We walked to my old office building, now occupied by someone else since I'd moved to a bigger space with my promotion. He led me to the exact spot where we'd first had a real conversation, where he'd asked about the paper assignment and I'd seen him as more than just an older student. 2 years ago, I walked through that door planning to keep my head down, finish my degree, and disappear back into my life, he said. Then you looked at me, and everything changed. Chin. He got down on one knee, and my heart stopped. From his pocket, he pulled out a small velvet box. Wei Chin, you've taught me more than literature. You've taught me that it's never too late to change, to grow, to choose love over fear. You've made me want to be a better man. You've given me a reason to build something meaningful with my life." He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. "Will you marry me?" I couldn't speak through the tears. Could only nod, over and over, until he stood and slid the ring onto my finger and kissed me while autumn leaves swirled around us. "Yes," I finally managed. "Yes, I'll marry you." We married 6 months later, in a small ceremony with close friends. Sarah was my maid of honor, crying through the whole thing. Chen's closest associates attended, men who'd seen him at his darkest and were clearly stunned to see him this happy. "You saved him," one of them told me at the reception. "I've known Chen for 20 years, and I've never seen him at peace. But with you? He's finally at peace." "He saved me too," I said, watching my husband across the room, talking and laughing. We saved each other. That night, in the honeymoon suite, he made love to me slowly, reverently, like he was worshipping something sacred. "My wife," he murmured against my skin. "My beautiful, brilliant wife." "My husband," I whispered back. "My complicated, wonderful husband." We laughed, cried, held each other until dawn. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm after that. I continued teaching, loving my work, watching students discover their own passion for literature. Chen built his foundation into something remarkable, providing scholarships and opportunities for hundreds of students. He stayed involved in some of his businesses, but he delegated the darker aspects to people he trusted. He was learning to step back, to find peace in this quieter life we'd built together. We bought a house, not his penthouse, but something warm and lived in, with a garden and space for the library we both wanted. We filled it with books, music, laughter, and love. Some nights, he still woke up from nightmares, ghosts of his past haunting him. I'd hold him, remind him he was safe, loved, home. Other nights, I'd wake up panicked about deadlines or difficult students, and he'd make me tea, listen to me vent, remind me I was enough. We were partners. True partners. In every sense. 3 years after we married, I found out I was pregnant. I was terrified to tell him, worried about bringing a child into his complicated world. But when I showed him the test, his face transformed with wonder. "A baby," he whispered. "We're having a baby. Are you happy?" Happy doesn't begin to cover it, way. I never thought I'd have this. A family. A real family. Our daughter was born on a spring morning, with her father's dark eyes and my stubborn determination. Chen held her with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face, and I watched a powerful man become completely undone by the weight of a 7-pound baby. "She's perfect," he said. "You're both perfect. What should we name her?" "Lynn," he said immediately. "After my mother. If that's okay with you." "It's perfect." Baby Lynn became the center of our world. Chin was an incredible father, patient, gentle, devoted. He'd sit up with her at night, singing soft lullabies in Mandarin, telling her stories from his childhood before the darkness came. Watching him with our daughter healed something in me I hadn't known was broken. This was redemption, I realized. This was a man who'd done terrible things finding grace through love, through family, through the simple act of choosing differently. On Lynn's first birthday, we threw a party in our garden. Friends, colleagues, Chen's associates, my family, all gathered to celebrate this little miracle we'd created. As I watched Chen holding our daughter, dancing with her to music while she giggled, I thought about that first day in class. When he'd sat in the back row, quiet and mysterious, and I'd had no idea he would become my entire world. I thought about the faculty meeting where I'd been humiliated, where Chen had seen me at my lowest and decided I was worth protecting. Worth loving. Worth changing his entire life for. I thought about all the moments between then and now, the fear, the passion, the choice to leap into the unknown together. "What are you thinking about?" Chen asked, coming to stand beside me, Lynn dozing on his shoulder. how far we've come. How grateful I am that you walked into my classroom. I'm the grateful one, Wei. You gave me everything. Purpose. Love. Family. A reason to be better. We gave that to each other. He kissed me softly, carefully, mindful of our sleeping daughter between us. I love you. I'll love you for the rest of my life and beyond. I love you too, I whispered. Always. As the sun set over our garden, our friends laughing and talking around us, our daughter sleeping peacefully in her father's arms, I realized this was happiness. Not perfect, not without complications or challenges, but real. Earned. Built from choice and courage and love. We'd both come from such different worlds, me with my books and dreams, him with his power and pain. But we'd met in the middle, in a literature classroom where words became bridges, and we'd built something neither of us had believed possible. A life. A home. A love story that started with curiosity and danger and transformed into something soft and lasting. And if someone had told me 5 years ago that the quiet man in the back row would become my husband, my partner, the father of my child, I never would have believed them. But life's best moments are the ones we never see coming. The ones that surprise us, challenge us, change us completely. Chen was my surprise. My challenge. My change. And I was his. Together, we'd written our own story, not the one anyone expected, but the one we needed. A story of second chances, of redemption, of love powerful enough to transform darkness into light. And it was ours. Completely, beautifully ours.